2023 marked my return back to collecting comics and graphic novels. Today I'm going to share with you my top 10 best comic books that I read in the year of 2023. I'm Alex. I collect comics and graphic novels. Welcome to the Graphic Novel Collector. As I said in the intro, I just came back to comics, so a lot of these books that I'm going to be talking about today with you aren't all currently being printed. Actually, a good majority of them. However, there are several in this list that are still ongoing titles and don't even have collected editions yet. But for the books that I'm talking about, I would say 95% of them are all graphic novels, trade paperbacks, or hardcovers. With all that out of the way, if you enjoy this content, make sure to like, comment down below. I would love to hear your top picks for the best comic books that you read in 2023. And of course, subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you get notified whenever I make a video. First up, we have Rick Remender and Wes Craig's absolute masterpiece, Deadly Class. Now, I am a huge Rick Remender fan. This is the first time I've actually gotten to delve into Deadly Class. And yes, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the original cover. This is the sci-fi TV show version. And like a filthy casual, I watched the TV show first. I actually thought the TV show was really good, and that's what made me want to read this even more. I've always been a fan of Remender, but man, this first trade was absolutely stunning. The art and the colors were absolutely gorgeous, and of course, who doesn't love a story about teenage assassins at a school that are teaching them how to be assassins? If you love gritty, action-packed teen dramas, Deadly Class is where it's at. Next up, we have Moon Knight by Alessandro Capriccio as the artist and Jed MacKay writing. This book, again, just like Deadly Class, I watched the TV show first, and that kind of got me introduced into the character. So being a super casual with Moon Knight, I was able to really dig in after I watched the TV show. Now, this book pretty much isn't anything like the TV show, but the TV show did give me a nice baseline for what to expect in here. Oh man, this is a really awesome take. There's vampires in this book, and Mark Spector is dressing in like a suit. I don't know. It's really, really good book, and this is one of the few series that is still ongoing as of the recording of this video. However, the story did, I believe, just end with 30, and a new creative team is going to be taking the reins for the first time in a long time. But Moon Knight, The Midnight Mission, was absolutely awesome. I haven't read the second trade, but the first one was excellent. Next up, and my last honorable mention, is going to be Akira by Katsuhiro Otomo. Now, this is technically not a Western comic book, but still deserves to be mentioned here because it is one of the best mangas I've ever read. Now, admittedly, I am not a huge manga fan, but I have read a couple here and there, and Akira was just absolutely excellent. This is the very first collection. This one has actually been formatted like Western comics. That was nice for me, being traditionally a Western comic enjoyer. This book, though, was awesome. Neo Tokyo explodes, and what comes from there, probably many of us know. I did watch the anime, and I have that on Blu-ray even, but the book is quite a bit different, and the fact that we're only one trade in, and almost the entire movie's wrapped up, I'm super stoked in 2024 to get my hands on the rest of this series. Alrighty, moving into the top 10 proper, we're going to be starting with DC. These are in no particular order. First up, we have Wonder Woman by Tom King. This is an ongoing series as of the recording of this video, and this is a bit of a controversial book. Tom King definitely has his pulse on politics and brings that into almost all of the comics that I've read from him. And I personally think he's touching on some topics that, quite frankly, need to be discussed, and he's using comic books as his vehicle to do so. Wonder Woman, this run has been awesome. I've collected all 4 issues thus far, and it's been great. It's been great. So check out Wonder Woman, not only if you're a fan of Tom King or a fan of Wonder Woman, but I think Everybody reading comics should check this out. And I know it's a bit of a touchy subject, and there are some things in here that is going to rub people the wrong way, but it's nice to have open discourse and just talk about things. But that's Wonder Woman. That's number 10. Moving on. Next up at number 9, we have Batman, The Man Who Laughs by Ed Brubaker and David Mankey. This is an awesome tale of Batman in his early years and really reminds me of The Dark Knight, the one with Heath Ledger in it. This is the first time the city of Gotham meets the Joker. We have Captain Gordon, not yet Commissioner. Of course, Batman's there as Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne as Batman. He's a young Batman. This book is excellent, and Brubaker does crime noir like no other. This book, if you're a Batman fan, is a must read. Moving on to number 8, we have Batman Fear State by James Tynion IV with the art by Jorge Jimenez. And holy smokes, I actually just made my very first video essay. You can check that video out right up there somewhere. That'll be tagged, but this book was excellent. The colors popped. The characters were awesome. There were a lot of characters. That is the one thing that kind of got this book a little bit of slack back in the day, but Fear State was absolutely awesome. It was anxiety-inducing like only James Tynion IV can do, and the plot was awesome. The characters were sweet, like I said. Batman Fear State, a criminally underrated Batman book. And I think that in about 10 years, this book, we're going to look back and say this is one of the classics. Moving on to Marvel Comics, we have Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon. This is by Matt Fraction and David Aja. I believe I'm pronouncing his name right. This is a classic, quintessential Hawkeye book, one of the best Hawkeye books ever, basically. And that's kind of the reason I wanted to read this. I think this came out back in about 2013 or 2014. I got around to reading it. I read the first 3 trades of this, so I only have one left to finish the entire run. But holy smokes, this book in particular was absolutely excellent. The amazing art by Aja was just absolutely stunning, and it fits perfectly with how quippy Matt Fraction is at delivering dialogue. The fact that all the Russian mobsters say bro all the time is just hilarious. And Fraction writes these characters with levity and is able to get in those comedy moments. But Hawkeye, if you're going to read a Hawkeye story, read Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon. Absolutely excellent. Sticking with Marvel, we have Chip Zdarsky's Daredevil to Heaven Through Hell. Now, I will say his entire run is absolutely excellent. So don't think that this is the only one. I actually have almost the entire run. I'm missing the 7th trade, so I'm almost done with this run. But Chip Zdarsky is one of my favorite comic book writers going. I'm reading his Batman run, which has been pretty darn good, in my opinion. If you're going to read a modern Daredevil story, I highly suggest picking up Zdarsky's run because he just knows how to write a good comic book. And Daredevil, he wasn't even on my radar as one of my favorite characters. I watched the Netflix TV show from years past. I liked that a lot. Finally got into the comic books. I really have enjoyed this. My next is going to be Mark Waid's run. But yes, Zdarsky wrote the hell out of this series, and I am really, really happy I picked these up. Daredevil by Chip Zdarsky. Moving on to the indies, we have Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai. Again, another series that I had never seen, had never heard of. I went to my local comic shop, and I saw a picture of this anthropomorphic samurai ninja dude that was a rabbit. And I was just like, what is this? Turns out, back in the 90s, he had run-ins with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the show. I just didn't remember it. I watched that show all the time. But after reading the first Fantagraphics trade, I was hooked. This is awesome. Stan Sakai has been writing this book for like 40 years almost, and it's just excellent. He has full ownership. There's no other creators. Stan Sakai writing Usagi Yojimbo. There are 100, probably 1,000 different stories of Usagi Yojimbo out there. I've got the first 5 Fantagraphics trades, and they're in these kind of smaller books, but they are really fun. It is one of the best characters in comic books. His dialogue is excellent. Usagi is just a great character because he does what's right all the time. And that's something in comics that we've kind of been losing recently. So Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai, I highly recommend you read it. Even if you're not into anthropomorphic, cute things, this book is as brutal as it is cute. So check it out. Moving on to number 4, we have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Last Ronin. This is the first time in a very long time that Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird teamed up to write a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles story. I believe this came out in 2022, but first time getting my hands on it. This is obviously the hardback, and this thing is a chonky read, but it is excellent. Like I said, I think the first time since maybe the late 80s that Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman were on it. Now, currently, Kevin Eastman is writing the IDW run with Tom Waltz, but this is Peter Laird back in it, and this story takes place in the far future when there's only one turtle left. They don't give away which turtle it is through half the book because obviously he's got all of their weapons. This is an excellent read if you are at all remotely a Turtles fan or want to check out a Turtles book. This is definitely the one. A contemporary piece with the 2 creators of the series on it. The Last Ronin is just, it's the perfect Turtles book. So much so that they are now making a second one. So you know when it gets a sequel, it's got to be great. Last Ronin, check it out. Moving on to number 3, we have Rick Remender and Andre Lima Ajeros, probably butchered that name, A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. This is an absolute masterclass in how to let the art drive the story. We follow Sonny. He is digging into the dark web, posing as a killer. And this book is just gripping. It's a page turner. You're going to fly through the first volume. It's only 2 volumes. I think 11 issues total. And it's an absolute page turner. I probably read this entire book in maybe 12 minutes. And it's a full-size 6-page trade paperback. But it is an absolute excellent story of vengeance. And holy smokes, if you like brutal, and I do mean brutal, stories of vengeance and revenge and absolute nonstop action that lets the art do its job. After all, this is a visual medium. A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. You have to check it out. Rick Remender is a genius for this one. Moving on to number 2, we have Radiant Black by Kyle Higgins and Marcelo Costa. I have right there the very first issue, wherever it is. I just picked that up, but I read all 4 trades in the matter of about 3 weeks. And this book is awesome. It is a shot in the arm for comic books, for superheroes. None of these folks are caped, but for caped heroes, this is an awesome breath of fresh air. If you take a millennial and make them a superhero, this is the perfect story. It takes place in my home state of Illinois, so that was a little connection that I also liked. And writer Kyle Higgins kind of pulls the rug out from you in the very first trade and switches the paradigm. This book, though, is excellent if you're looking for a fresh take on superheroes that isn't afraid to change the status quo in a superhero book. Check out Radiant Black. This is one of my favorite series going on right now. And honestly, from the character design to the plot to the action sequence to the art and coloring, it's all just so amazing. There's other books in the Massive Verse, as they call it, but check this out. This is where it all started, Radiant Black. Moving on to the next. All right, last and certainly not least, we have Transformers, art and story by Daniel Warren Johnson. Mike Spicer does the coloring. If you love comic books, You don't even need to know anything about Transformers, because I certainly was not a Transformers fan. The cartoon back in the day kind of was a little bit before my time, and of course the movies weren't so hot. But this book series is excellent. There are 3 issues out right now, and holy smokes, y'all. The way that Daniel Warren Johnson draws these characters is something that in all of the other books I've mentioned today, it just doesn't happen. I don't know if it happens in the industry at all. His ability to draw scenes of action are just incredible, and his writing is excellent too. It's funny, it's whimsical, it's down to earth. He's telling a real story here, and that is something I think that a lot of comic book writers these days try to deconstruct what a comic book character or superhero is supposed to be. None of that with Daniel Warren Johnson. He gets in, gives you what you want, makes you feel that you are reading a comic book. That is why this is the best book series I've read all 2023, and it is still ongoing. Obviously, it only has 3 books in the series, and this is a huge property. This is going to be an ongoing series, hopefully for a very long time, because Daniel Warren Johnson is one of the best comic book creators in the industry today, and I'm super stoked to read some of his other stuff. He's a wrestling fan, and I'm also a wrestling fan, so that's really, really cool. I'm just super stoked. Transformers. If you haven't yet checked this out, even if you're not a Transformers fan, like I said, check this out. You will not be disappointed. I guarantee it. So there you have it. There are my top 10 favorite, best, whatever you want to call it, comic books that I've read in 2023. There are a lot of different ones. And yeah, I'm super stoked. If you want to watch my journey here on the channel about collecting comics and graphic novels, make sure to subscribe. If you enjoyed this video or got value out of it, or, maybe I suggested something that you end up checking out, make sure to like the video, hit that post notification bell icon so you don't miss my videos. And of course, thank you everybody. I hope you all had a great year, and here's to 2024, where I hope to continue making more content like this. I appreciate you all, and until the next one, I'll catch you all on the flippy flop. Adios.